give it a go. Wowzers, trousers. Hello, it's me again, over here, on the stream, which is still a bit weird. I haven't quite gotten used to this. But hello, my name is Oxy, or Tome, as I put in the title. I don't know why I put Tome. It wasn't a misspelling. I just used to be called that when I was in primary school. I think I was just in school with lots of people who couldn't spell. But regardless, very nice. Um, there are a few people in the office uploading right now, so the quality may be a bit sporadic. Hopefully, I have alerted them in time, and they will stop going mental with the internet connection. So it might be a bit flaky for the time being, but overall, hopefully, it will stabilize at some point. Hello, I am the person that does these occasionally, and also the person that does these on Thursday and Friday with Mike, which is pretty nice. And I'm here today to talk about the game. If you have any advice or questions or anything you'd like, I will be here for the next hour or maybe 2 hours, who knows, to talk about anything in particular. Also, I have my tea this time. It's not actually coffee. Like I japed you last time. This is actually tea, but I have it again in a yellow mug. This is yellow, by the way, not actually green, which is not the best. But hopefully, we can have a bit of a chat on this nice Monday midday, early afternoon. I've forgotten what it's like in the other parts of the world, but for me, it's 2:40. 2:40. Very nice. So I will let everyone get settled, and we can start talking about War Thunder things or anything else. I mean, it doesn't have to be War Thunder. You can ask about I should hopefully be getting a haircut soon. I mean, if you treat the game like it's a job in any respect, like you're playing just to get new stuff all the time, then you're going to get burned out. And it's always nice to take a step back and play something a little easier, or something you just find more fun. I mean, not necessarily easy, but anything in that regard. It's that's always the way to go. Absolutely, every time, and that's the advice I will always give in that respect as well. Martin, no, can't do that. Bob Semple, I mean, that's the funniest thing I've ever heard. Thank you for that. Bob again, very nice. F16, that's a nice combination of a letter and numbers. One of my favorites. Good morning. Good morning to you too. Paul. Paul Zeno, right? I can't read. Maybe. None of these guesses are right. It's in some of these instances quadruple. What these are. Sexy pickles. Yes, I am. I am solo, as it were. What up? Not much. I'm just sort of hanging out right now, waiting for some people to arrive, and we can sort of talk about whatever. Hopefully more War Thunder things. Nice haircut, bro. Yeah, I haven't had a haircut. This is just my hair normally. It's at an angle right now. I should hopefully be getting a haircut soon. I'd like one, but because everything's closed, it's sort of very difficult because the hairdressers here don't really speak much English. So yeah, not very, very good. Not very good. How's life in Germany? It's not bad. Mostly it's staying at home, waiting for the lockdown to be over, and then we can sort of get back to things. It's okay. It's okay. Why Triple X asks, how do I play at 8.3 with 3.7 Russian tanks? The answer to that should be that you probably shouldn't, unless you're trying to play the KB2 there, which I don't know exactly what your game plan is there, but yeah, probably not a good idea to do that. Excuse me. Having structured lineups is always the best way to go in that regard. Having everything around the same BR is always what I would aim to do. So I'm not sure how I can quickly answer that. Tome, guide for the 6.3 Cockroach, that is the JPZ-45. Well, it's a vehicle that I think, those sorts of vehicles, at least from my perspective, are some of the most difficult vehicles to play. They're the vehicles that have a sort of limitation in their usability of the gun, be it really slow turret traverse speed or being casemate. And having no armor and being mobile, it means great. You can get your tank into a really good position, like deep into the map early on, but you don't quite have the reactive ability of your vehicle to engage enemies at different angles. So the detriment to the JPZ-45 is that while you can use the mobility to get into a good position in the map quite early on, you can't really utilize that position to engage multiple enemies from multiple different areas, which is pretty difficult. It's a vehicle that it's quite difficult to use, I think, in that regard. And as well, the stock APCR doesn't really help it. It's been the case for a while now. I remember when that thing came out, it was 7.7, and it wasn't very good there either. But now, with the heat's not bad on that thing. But really, a vehicle like that works in an area where you don't really expect anything. It's one of the vehicles I like to play in weird parts of the map. And as well, because it's sort of so low down, it's a very low profile of a vehicle, you can play it behind cover that you can't really play it other vehicles around, which is it's good for that. So, I mean, the common sense of that kind of thing is to not really play it on the front lines. You're not going to want to play in the common sight lines, the common areas of the map. You need to be sort of out of the way to use a vehicle like that effectively, especially as there's no turret. And another way you can counter that is by playing at quite long range. Obviously, you need to know how the shells land, the heat lands. It can take some practice. But sticking at range eliminates the factor of, well, effectively, it sounds stupid to explain like this, but the further you are away, the less your gun needs to move to track an enemy. So the benefit in that regard is that the further you are away, the less you need to move the actual hull of the vehicle to get the gun on target. So it's a good way to play. So yeah, that's a very loose way of some sort of light nuggets of advice, I guess I'd give to playing that vehicle. Overall, though, I'd probably just stick to the Bulldog. It's way more versatile, has scouting, and overall, it's a much more user-friendly vehicle. That's what I go with. Wait, you are Oxy. Yes, I am. Hello. My voice doesn't match my face on many things, so that can be a bit peculiar. Let's have a look here. Nutty Raccoon 4, what is your opinion on the Lags series of planes? I quite like them. I think they're a pretty good early monoplane fighters. I think the earliest is what, 2.3 now, 2.0, the Lag 3.8? I can never remember. But they're all pretty good. I think the later ones are a bit outclassed. The Lag 366, I think, is the latest one right now, apart from the i301, if you count that. i301, very, very good, by the way. They're pretty good, but they're not exactly easy to use if you're a beginner, because they are somewhat hybrids. They can turn, they can use energy, but they can't really do both to an incredible degree. You're going to get caught out turning a lot. But the benefit is that the guns are very, very punchy, especially at that BR when you are meeting slow bombers and weaker aircraft. The 20mm and the 50 cal work really, really well there. So I think overall they're pretty good, but the later, like the higher up in BR you go, the worse they get. The earlier ones are the best, just relative to the enemies they fight. They're obviously not quite as powerful as the later variants, but just because they fight weaker enemies, they comparatively work a bit better. And the type of vehicle that they are works against those kinds of aircraft, whereas the higher lags aren't quite as good, although they can still work. They're not unusable by any means. And I quite like them. Goldfish Gaming, are you looking forward to any new vehicles and game mechanics coming in the foreseeable future? Yes, I am. Lots of cool stuff always. Yeah, I know when the next update is. Obviously, I can't tell you, but there will, as always, be stuff to look forward to here and there. So yes, well, I don't know exactly if I can say anything in this regard, but soon. There's not really much else I can add to that without being, I can't make that joke. Anyway, please, will we have Twitch drop, son? Dad, I'm sorry, but I can't really divulge that information at present either. Maybe soon. Maybe soon. How to Britain 47273. There's no specific lineup, so it's a confusing time. Yes, I agree. It is. I think Britain does sort of deserve to have a little bit more to bulk out their lineups. It's tricky from that BR upwards because there are vehicles that work. The Challenger works. The Reload's great. The Comet is really, really good. The Comet's one of my favorite vehicles of all time. And the Centurion Mark 1 as well, as a vehicle, is great, but it suffers because it doesn't have its own BR. So I know what you mean. It's tricky. I've always found that making a lineup with the Comets works quite well. Excuse me. Because they're just vehicles that, on the surface, they maybe look quite weak. They have no reverse gear, but the turret armor on that thing is deceptively strong. It's 102mm cast, and in some areas it double stacks. So if you can actually put it into an area where you can utilize that turret armor, it can be reasonably tanky, and the Sabo works quite well too. So I'm pretty much a fan of that one. The Comet's the lineup I would go with, although if you want to play at 6-0 with the Centurion and the Comet's backup, it's not like that doesn't work. But in the up tiers, the Comet does sort of start to lose its viability, though the benefit it has is that the Sabo will still reasonably be able to get through everything. It just won't be able to one-shot very much. But you can use the Challenger as well, because that gets the upgraded ammunition. I'd probably go 5-7, 6-0 is the lineup I'd go with for now. Yeah, overall, it's not the strongest area in the British tree, absolutely. What do you think about submarine, like the U-boat? Is it possible inside the game? It's certainly possible, but I don't know if it's particularly as engaging in practice as it seems in theory. Because submarines in reality were very, very slow. And given that how big the maps need to be to accommodate for the larger ships, it's going to be very difficult to actually make those kinds of vehicles work in the setup we have right now. Maybe in the future, the landscape, or seascape rather, will completely change, and that won't be the case. So, yeah, I think right now it's probably not something to, I guess, wait eagerly for. I don't think it's a sort of impossibility forever, although it's not likely it'll happen. It's one of those things. I mean, 5 years ago, we probably didn't think that, we'd have any of the stuff we have at the higher tiers of the game right now anyway. So, yeah. Um, Majestic, why does my team suck? I think a lot of that is probably just confirmation bias, although, I mean, it should mostly be average. I can't really add much apart from that. Will Gaijin rework some maps and modern vehicles? I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that's planned, to be honest. Maybe. Of course, if you think it should be something that should be changed, suggest it on the forum. Everything gets forwarded over there. But I can't really comment any specifics on the upcoming stuff, I'm afraid. Mostly just if you have anything to do with the advice for the game, I can sort of give that a go, or at least try. Anyway, do you have tea or coffee this time? I got tea. Got myself a nice bit of Yorkshire. Had to order that off Amazon because they don't really sell normal tea here. It's just sort of herbal stuff, which is okay, but not mega. Why is the KV1 HE feeling so useless compared to the German 15 centimeter HE? Do you mean the KV2? In which case, I think it's just the German has way more filler, from what I remember. I don't remember the specifics, but I'm pretty sure the German 15 centimeter gun is really powerful in terms of its HE splash. And yeah, it's the filler mostly. It's just because shells are the same caliber doesn't mean they will kind of necessarily perform the same. It's mostly about what's actually inside of the rounds there. So yeah, it's the filler mostly. Why is my cockpit gun sight low resolution? That's a clip for you. I'm not sure. Maybe that's a new issue coming up. I haven't seen anything about that, but bug report it, and that'll get seen to as soon as possible. French Navy, maybe, some point. I can't comment on anything upcoming, but I mean, they had a pretty hefty navy there, so at some point, I think it's very much possible we'll have something like this. Thoughts on World War I vehicles? Very, very cool, but with very little application in this game, I think. The tanks themselves would not really be very fun. I don't think that's something that we can really expect very soon. The aircraft, I guess, could work, but then, that has its own issues. But, maybe in the future, it's more than likely, well, not more than likely, I'd say it's more likely a feature to come to Enlisted rather than to War Thunder. Obviously, I don't know if it's going to come to Enlisted, but if I had to guess at seeing that kind of gameplay aspect in either game, I'd probably go with that one. A10 when? I mean, common now. Obamato. Is that like Obama and tomato? Very nice. A combination of two. Very. I can't finish that sentence. But I can finish that sentence. It will just be taken out of context. Well, probably at some point. I don't know. I have no idea on anything upcoming in that regard. A Brazilian army, I don't think Brazil probably has the amount of vehicles necessary to make a complete tree. Maybe like the South African stuff, it will come as a line in another tree. I'm not sure. I have no idea in that kind of thing, in that regard, I'm afraid. Please answer, is show lead available in realistic battles? If you mean the aircraft lead indicator, no, that's only for arcade, not for realistic. I think that was in there for like one dev server like 5 years ago, but it's not in the game, and I doubt it's ever going to be in a... Oh god, my voice is going. I don't talk very much, so when I do talk, my body freaks out. And it's like, what are you doing? Stop it, because people are listening to you, and that's bad. I'll have some fluid. Yep. What do we have? At this point, you look like a junkie. No, I don't. It's just that my hair's quite long, so I can see how you would make that comparison, but I'm afraid not. I'm not that interesting, I'm afraid. Breathe. I may. is there plans to get back to Japan versus USA Pacific matches? I can't get the blue Sakura decal. Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, some of the decals are changed in that regard. Yeah. I don't know. I know you can get them at lower tiers. I think they do have the same historical matchmaking in that regard. So yeah, you can try and do it there. I'm not sure. I think that's definitely something I would like to see in the future. Because at least from my perspective on the whole thing, what I liked about ARB in the early days is when it was sort of, Germany versus Allies, Japan versus America, etc., is that the climb to altitude had more meaning because you could work out roughly what you were going to fight as an absolute and work out how to position yourself in the map once you've climbed to that altitude. And you can't really do that now that everything's mixed because there's just so many possibilities. When you were playing your P40 at 2.7 against the Japanese, and you were at a 2.7 to 3.7 match, you could work out pretty much all the possibilities and what you would fight and how to position yourself in the best way to counter them. And you can't really do that now in the way that ARB is, so that's a bit of a shame from my perspective, but it does keep things varied, I guess. So pros and cons, yeah. I don't know if it will come back. I personally would like to see it come back, but I don't really have anything concrete for now, I'm afraid. Sadly. When are the overall discounts? I don't know. I'd probably say around May Day. Like Victory Day, there's usually some sales around then. I don't know what the particulars are or if there are going to be any, but that's probably when I would be waiting for them personally, myself. What's your favorite British Centurion? I don't know. I always like the Centurion Mark III. Probably overall, it's not the most effective, and in terms of like a raw efficiency scale. The Centurion Mark V right now is really, really good. But I like that thing just because of, how War Thunder was back in the day when Britain came out, and that thing was very, very strong. Excuse me, I very much like that. Yeah, that's probably my favorite, although that's not relative to perfect performance. Favorite Doom album? Oh, probably Food. I've always liked that. I mean, it was the first one I listened to back in the day, and yeah, I've got that on CD, and yeah, I really like it. I don't know if it's his best technically, but it's one I really like. That and Doomsday, very, very nice. Yorkshire Gold best tea. We're taking no questions. I mean, that's exactly the tea I have right now. We ordered it off Amazon. It's brilliant. I can't get enough of that, really. Um, do you drink coffee? Yes, I do. Sometimes. Where's the other guy? Mike is in the other room right now. We are maybe doing our own solo streams in the week. I have mine today on Monday, which is more of you know, a lower energy kind of thing. We'll just be talking about the game, nothing super intensive, just maybe something to listen to if you're on a break or doing something monotonous. Just have something in the background, or if you want to know anything about the game itself, I can be here to help out. Maybe Mike will do his own. I'm trying to get him to do one. We'll work something out. And then again, as usual, on Thursday and Friday, we will both be doing the duo streams again. So that's not stopping. It's just that I will have my own on Monday, and maybe Mike will have his own too. That will be very nice. Very nice. How do I kill the German KV-1? Which one? I'll keep an eye on you. Not in a sinister way, but just to catch your next message. Do you mean the KV-1B or the C? Because they both have different applications. Is Mike the German guy? Yes, he is. He is indeed. I won't finish the rest of that sentence, but yes. Hi, Jackson. How are you? Very well, I hope. I won't take any other answer. Sleepy, these Oxy Q&A streams are awesome. Oh, I don't know if they're awesome. I can't really hype myself to that extent, but I'm glad you're liking them in any case. That's very nice to hear. Will you fix the Bearcat model? It looks horrendous. Wow, strong words there. Maybe. I believe the Bearcat model in game right now is using the prototype configuration, so maybe it will be updated in the future. I'm not sure. It's a very old model in any case, and I think just how these things go, the older models in this game do sort of periodically get updated. I can't remember what the last ones were, but we did have the Hurricanes and the HU-111s as well, which was pretty nice. So maybe in the future we'll be seeing more of those as well. How to the LEKPZ M41? I'm glad you asked. I can't read your name, apologies. I do not speak the language. But I think this is a vehicle that's important to figure out how to play in the German tree because it's, oh Christ, my hair is all over the place. This is terrible. I look awful right now. Well, much like I usually do. Yeah, it's a vehicle that's important to learn to play really because it's so different to everything in the tree that's come towards it. Come before it, excuse me. Because it's, it uses its mobility, it's very fast, it has no armor, and most of the vehicles you'll be maining in the German tree before that point have decent armor from the front and are not hyper maneuverable. And the Bulldog is sort of the antithesis of that. So I think the main issue that a lot of people will come to when they're playing that vehicle is that you've sort of passively conditioned yourself to play in a certain way while you're playing the Tiger 2 and the Panthers. And the one thing you can't do with the Bulldog is drive until you see action and then engage. You can do that with the others. You drive into the map, you stop when you see an enemy, you shoot, you hopefully knock them out. Excuse me. You can't do that with the Bulldog. And it's such an easy autopilot trap to fall into with this game, especially for the German vehicles, because they are more accommodating to that style of play, and they let you get away with it. They let you get away with playing that way. But the Bulldog can't really do that. So you need to sort of be very aware of what you're doing in the early stages of the match and not just drive straight into everything. The best part of using those vehicles is to, one thing I used to do, and I still do sometimes, if you don't know the maps as well, is if you look at the map, draw a line in your head from the enemy spawn to the capture point, and find a way to position yourself where you watch that line from their spawn to the cap, and you definitely have the mobility to do that. So you're going to want to push into the map, avoid the main sight line of that line to the middle, and watch the line the enemy will take there, because that's when you're going to get the side shots, and that's when you're going to get the jump on the enemy. And then really it's just choosing between the Heat and the Sabo. Both have their application. Heat, of course, is more powerful in terms of doing sort of post-pen damage, but it does get stopped on fences, and it's a bit harder to aim as well. So both do have their application. Yeah, I think the main thing to do is just to... I don't mean to sound unkind, but, switch your brain on. I'm not trying to imply that you have your brain switched off, but more so that it's easy to autopilot in the early stages of the match if you have played a lot of Germany. So that's mostly what I do for that. I could probably go on, but I've spent too long on that one already. Let's see what else we have. Not sure about the Yugoslavian tech tree. Maybe someday. I have absolutely no idea. Absolutely no idea. Oxy, how can one extract any joy from the late Soviet heavies, IS-3, 6, and T-10, when the armor meta is dead? They're mostly, at least from my perspective, lineup vehicles. What I mostly mean by that is that they're vehicles that you cannot play on every match and every situation. They are by, I guess, by design as gameplay elements, very situational. There are some maps where they just don't work, and some BRs where they have the potential to work, but more often than not, they're not going to. So the best thing to make those vehicles work is actually nothing to do with the vehicles. It's to make a lineup around them. So for the IS-6 and IS-3, you're going to want to make a 7-3 lineup, of course, with the BMP, the T-54, the Object 120 if you have it, or the Object 268, and have some aircraft there as well. The Su-9 as well, really good new aircraft to have. Decent CAS as well. It's a nice versatile plane. And when you have that backbone, you can actively choose to play those vehicles on the maps and BRs that suit them. There's not really much else to kind of go into apart from playing the vehicles, in better ways. But I think that's a secondary to actually getting the lineup sorted and then going from there. That's always what I've sort of suggested for heavy tanks like that. Tome, what Italian vehicle do you like? I like a fair few of them. What's the name? I like the last Semavente a lot. The one with the Pac 40 analog. That's a really nice one. Decent armor, very low profile, great gun. M43 76, can't remember. But yes, that one's very, very good. I like that. Let me have a sip, a tactical sip. Yeah, they made me wear the Gaijin shirt today because my one, we need to take a photo of me wearing something to put on the social media. So I have to wear this, sadly. Not sadly, I guess, but I mean, I don't know, I feel weird wearing it. I'm not sure why. But it's not bad. It's a nice, well-made little knitted on logo there. Sweet. Sci-fi coming to the game? I'm not sure what you mean. If you mean future vehicles, probably not anytime soon or at all. I have no idea, apart from that. Any news on newer bombers? Nothing from my perspective, sorry. Not sure. Maybe in the future. I think it's one of those things that right now the game can't really accommodate newer bombers, like or more modern bombers, fairly, or at least in a regard where it's equally balanced in that respect. But I think it's not something that's impossible to come in the future. It just probably won't be anytime soon. From my perspective, obviously that's not anything you can take as a confirmation or declining. I don't know, but that's just the opinion I can give right now, I'm afraid. What happened to the spoon? The spoon is probably still here on the floor somewhere. I'm actually not sure where it's gone, although it is probably around still. Maybe. Mm-mm-mm-mm. Should I buy the Russian Focke-Wulf D9 or the Yak-3 VK107? I think the Focke-Wulf is more forgiving to use. The VK107 is incredibly quick, but it's quite easy to overspeed and either crash or put yourself in a pretty bad spot. It's very powerful if you are confident with aircraft in general, but I think the D9 has a little bit more going for it in terms of usability. They both work, but from my experience of playing them, it's been a fair while since I've played both of those. But I remember having a much better time with the Focke-Wulf itself. Uh, Obviously, climb is great on both, but the Yak is just very susceptible to overspeeding. And if you are quite new to the game and you don't really, you're not quite as confident with managing your speed, it's very easy to get that thing right into the ground without really doing much wrong, at least on the surface. So I'd probably go Focke-Wulf, but maybe there'll be better options as well for going through the tree. What's your favorite nation if you were forced to choose one? Probably America. I like America a lot. It's very versatile. There's lots of different vehicles that do lots of different jobs, and I've always liked that. I'd probably go with that one, mainly because the Shermans are maybe my favorite vehicles in the game. Probably not visually my favorite, but in terms of actually being functional machines, I really, really like them, and I'd probably go to that. More tea, yes, please. Got my thermos here, so I've got about 2.5 cups. That's gonna be nice to look forward to. Should I get the T26 E1 or the T25 first? I'd say it probably depends on you as a player. The E1 is more of a passive advantage, has more passive advantages. The T25 has a lot of active advantages. The mobility is not the best in terms of forward mobility. The reverse is great. The main thing is the short stab. That's why it's at the same BR as the Pershing, because the short stab is an absolutely incredible feature. It's really underrated in my opinion. I love the short stab on those vehicles. So if you're more aggressive, that thing can work really, really well. If you're more passive or more defensive, the T26 works great as well. Really good gun and situationally effective armor. Not great in up tiers, but even so, the gun will work, and it's not unusable. So I think it mostly depends on you as a player. I don't think either is objectively better suited for everyone. The game is quite grey in that respect. It's seldom black and white. So yeah, I think it depends on you. If you are confident in being aggressive, the T25 is what I would go for. Absolutely. Will the Flak Panzer 341 make an appearance in an event? I'm not sure. I think it's quite unlikely at this point to come back, but it's not going to be impossible. I'm not really sure on that one, I'm afraid. Why is heat able to bounce? Because of the warhead. It is certainly possible for the part of the round to hit armor and then bounce off. It's not it's not going to just impact and explode, or if it does explode, it's going to explode off the armor. So the jet is not going to actually punch through it. It'll go off at an angle. I don't know the exact particulars on how it works, but it is certainly possible to happen. It's not an error in any respect. Can we see the Chinese helicopter and Navis soon? Maybe soon. I don't know. No idea. Of course, this is not really the area for me to talk about upcoming content. I can't really do that, I'm afraid. But I'd like to see the Chinese helicopter tree, though. That would be very cool. Very cool. The Italian Gepard with OF40 hull would be cool. No idea it's coming. The Saddam, from my perspective, is very, very powerful anyway. Very, very powerful. Will we see the Corsair 2 for France anytime soon? Maybe. Again, not really too much I can say in that respect. Very cool plane though. I like the British one with the clipped wings. Um, Devblog soon TM? Yes, soon TM. That's pretty much all I can add there. How do you play the M4A2 76W? Well, it's a pretty difficult one to talk about quickly. It's a vehicle that's hugely versatile, and at least there's a way I kind of always try and explain this one, and then it's that if you are quite a confident player with the game, you will have a really good time with the Sherman because it's it's what I always obnoxiously do this on my YouTube videos. It's what I call a tank, which is a meaningless statement on its own. But roughly what I mean by that is that it's a vehicle that's quintessential to what a tank is. It has a powerful gun, armor that's usable, not incredible, but usable, and mobility that allows both aspects to work. And I think it's a vehicle that doesn't do a lot for you. It's a very, very active vehicle to get the most advantages out of it. If you aim your shot well and you can penetrate a tank, the filler in that round is going to do a lot of damage. The armor unangled is not going to do a lot for you. You need to angle it, keep on the move, make sure the enemy doesn't have an easy shot on you. And the mobility will come into play when you are making the best use of your short stabilizer. That thing has a perfectly stable gun below 25 kph, which means that if you meet an enemy on the move and you're both on equal grounds, you're both on the move, you can get the accurate shot off on them every time before they can get an accurate shot off on you. And when you can use the mobility in that regard and make that kind of short stabilizer work, that's when you can really make the Sherman do things that other vehicles at the BR can't. But it's a difficult one to use from the offset. You need to keep the armor angled, you need to keep on the move, and you need to know the weak points of the enemies you fight, because if you meet, say, a Panther in that thing and you don't know the weak spots and what you can do with the gun, you're likely not going to have the best of times. You need to know exactly where to go for it. I think the best thing is to analyze the vehicles you're struggling with, so things like the Panthers, the Tigers, maybe IS-1, IS-2, and maybe the Mantlet of the T-34s. And once you know roughly where you need to be shooting, it's all about using the short stabilizer and using the map as well. If you can use the map, that tank is really, really good, especially using ridge lines as well, because the Mantlet is not amazing, but it's deceptively bouncy from some of the weaker shells. They can hit the overlap quite easily as well. And if you're hull down, there's a lot of areas to eat some incoming shots. So it's a difficult one. It's a difficult one to quickly summarize, but I think I can quite obnoxiously summarize it in that the more confident you are with the game, the more you'll get out of it. But a lot of it is using the mobility in an effective way, I'd say, to kind of go through it quickly. Do you think the Russians will get any 10-7 tanks? Yes, I think it's more than likely that will happen. I don't know when exactly it will be, but I think it's certainly not an impossibility. More Tannen, what would you change in War Thunder's map design if you had the chance? I'm not really sure what I would strictly change myself, but I think there's one thing I was thinking about a while ago, and that why I think people don't really like the new maps as much, and I don't know if it's because in any regard that they're objectively worse. It's that they're designed slightly differently. The earlier maps were quite limited in terms of the internal sightlines they had. If you look at a map like Ash River or Corellia, their sightlines are easily defined, and it's very easy to put yourself in a position where you have cover from all sides, hard cover. What I mean is that in any instance when you're on the map or whatever, there's going to be areas where enemies cannot hit you from. So on Ash River, say, if you're playing in the north or the south, on the lowland or the highland, there's effectively 2/3 of your 360 scope around your vehicle where the enemy just is not going to be engaging you, and therefore you're going to, you can react to enemies easier. You know where they're going to be coming from. There's no way they're going to come behind you. So it is easier to stay alive. The newer maps, that's not quite the case. If we look at a map like Sweden or Cargoport, there are so many sight lines all over that wherever you are in the map, enemies have the potential to come behind you from your sides. They can appear from anywhere. So it is less likely you're going to stay alive as long when compared to those older maps. And I think that really benefits newer vehicles a lot. That's certainly an advantage of their playstyle. But I think in general, it's quite difficult to keep yourself alive when compared to those older maps. And I think that's probably something that I think a lot of people will probably struggle with, especially when learning them. And the other thing is as well, I don't know if people give maps as much of a chance. Um, I think that's an easy thing for me to say. I think people are very much right when they dislike certain maps. I think some maps are obviously better than others. But I think it gets to a point where if you play a map a couple of times, you play 5 matches, they don't go very well because you don't know where to play well, how to play the map very well yet. You're going to have in the back of your mind, something telling you that those are bad maps because you haven't had good times in them. Because mainly, you haven't had the time to learn them yet and play them enough. So I realized that with Vietnam. I didn't like Vietnam, and I realized it was because I hadn't played it enough to learn the best spots. Then I took it off my dislike list and I played it, and I got it. It clicked. I knew where to go, and it sort of worked from there. So I think if you have the opportunity, play the maps you don't like, because you'll eventually find a spot that just kind of clicks for your playstyle, and it will really help going forward. That's something I would say anyway. Not exactly the answer to the question, I guess, but yeah, that's something I would say for sure. But does that not make luck a huge factor? Well, it depends. What some people may call luck, others may call a good positioning. It's a that's a very kind of grey area to kind of you can effectively attribute it to luck. You may be running head on into a vehicle you'll really struggle with, where you could run into a vehicle you won't struggle with. But if you're in a tank that will definitely potentially struggle with a vehicle you could potentially meet, maybe that's a call to play the map in a slightly different way. I don't think it's purely fair to say it's luck, although I do agree that it's not entirely, luck isn't a factor at all. So, yeah, I think it's a bit of both. Do you with Tome? Yeah, Tome used to be a nickname of mine. I added the E there because, I'm a renegade maverick, obviously, as you can tell from my voice. Uh, German low-tier naval bombers? Do you mean should we add some, or how to play them? I know there aren't really many right now, but I mean, the Condor, I guess, was used in sort of anti-shipping. I'm not sure strictly what you mean, I'm afraid. Uh, I will try to clarify if you can ask again. Ask again. I can't even speak. Terrible. Have more water. My throat goes all weird sometimes. Yep. Very nice. Why why do I think a future video title should be Tea with T? If that was my name, maybe. It's not, sadly. Can we disable turret-mounted MGs? Yes, you can. There is a keybind for that. Well, it's not really a keybind to disable it per se. It's a keybind to select only your main gun, and you can deselect from there. I think there's a way to only select it so that your coax will fire as well. I think there's a keybind for that, although I'm not sure exactly what it is. Although I'm relatively sure it exists. Relatively sure anyway, maybe. Yeah, the Arado 196, yep, that's the event vehicle in the game. Not really the most functional in terms of actually going after ground or water targets, but in the air it's not bad. Gets a bomber spawn. It can do a lot of work there as well. Kind of fun. I love float planes. They're probably my favorite type of aircraft itself. So, yeah, I like that. BF-109 or Focke-Wulf 109? I think it mostly depends on playstyle. I prefer the 109s themselves just because they're more hybridy. They can maneuver. I like that. I like being able to play vehicles not quite to their strengths and still do well. So I like the 109s for turn fighting stuff. I always turn fighting 109s. I mean, obviously it's not the best thing to do for that kind of play style, but I really like it. I like doing that. I think overall the 109s are easier to play, but the Focke-Wulfs are more forgiving in terms of the burst mass of their guns. And the roll rate lets you shake enemies off potentially a little bit easier. They both have their advantages, but personally for me, I would go with the 109. All across the board, really. I think all of them are really, really effective. Really effective. Waffenträger Beastman? Yes, I agree. Sort of. It's pretty nice. It's I think it's not the easiest vehicle. The Nashorn still arguably has advantages over it, even at 5.7 if you both play them at 5.7. But the low profile is nice. You're decently survivable hull down as well because rounds can just pass right through, only taking out one crew member. So yeah, it's a nice vehicle to have. The Long 88 does incredibly well at 5.7. Yeah, I can agree with that. Absolutely. A beast. Quite so. Yes. And news on the Heli PvE mode. It's being worked on extensively from what I understand. I don't have any ETA for that, but it will come when it's ready. And, by that denotion, it's going to be in the best state it can be at that time. And, rather than just, rushing it out, there are still things to fix. So, yeah, being worked on. I don't really have any ETA on that. Tiger H1 or IS2. Difficult. I think they both do different things. I think a lot of people get caught up on vehicles having the same designation and then comparing them directly, like in the same way that I would say, even though the Jumbo is an assault tank, comparing the Jumbo and the Tiger 1 is a kind of inherently a sort of disingenuous comparison because they are hugely different despite being heavy tanks. Jumbo is an assault tank, but I mean, semantics. They are, in the same class, but they play entirely differently. The Jumbo and the Tiger, for example, I will get to the IS-2, have such different sort of play. Well, they play to much different strengths. They both have different weaknesses, and I think it's easy to compare two vehicles like that just because they're somewhat similar in BR and designation, despite actually being hugely different as vehicles. I think the Tiger 1 has more potential, but the IS-2, if played correctly, is more forgiving just because of how nice the round can be. The overmatch on the 122 is great. It's going to one-shot most of the time. And the reverse speed lets you get out of the way of incoming fire quite easily. The Tiger H1 is very, very easy to misplay just because you need to have active involvement with how the vehicle actually works. That's a vague thing to say. What I mean is that you need to do things to get the most out of it. You need to angle the armor, keep on the move. The reaction of, the window of reaction time your enemies have needs to be as short as possible. And there's a lot to micromanage with getting the Tiger to work the most effectively. So I think, I don't know what I'd say. I think I prefer the IS-2 just because I think it's fun. I find it satisfying just to plant the 122 onto enemies. I really like that. I think it's quite enjoyable. But playing the Tiger, I think if you can play the Tiger right and you know what makes the Tiger work, you'll get more out of it just because the reload is like 3 times as short. And it's way more versatile. You can play at close range where the IS-2 can but can't really be as can't be quite as safe doing it. I think for me the IS-2 Tiger has more potential, but you need to know how to use it. I think I could probably talk about that a lot more, but I don't have the most time, I guess. Also, yes, someone is probably uploading something, so that's probably an issue happening right now, but we'll see. We'll see. Maybe it'll sort out. Maybe let me double check what's happening here. Yeah, we've got a couple of meetings going on right now, a couple of calls. So there's that might be happening a little bit, but hopefully it will sort of calm down. It probably will. It usually only lasts a few minutes anyway. So if it does get bad on YouTube, it's more than likely going to be better on Twitch. So maybe head over there if you'd like to continue. But yeah, hopefully it'll sort of even out. How would you describe the ITPM one? I would describe it as good. I like that vehicle. It's maybe not the easiest thing to use just because it's not quite maneuverable enough to kind of deal with a competent enemy and a good fighter. Like with a Spitfire, if you're engaging on a sort of maneuvering fight, it can be quite difficult. But overall, it's got great speed and huge versatility. The way I described that as in the video I made on the last of the Russian guide was that it's like a less forgiving but more versatile Yak 9T. It has the 50 rounds instead of the 30 rounds on the Yak and can carry the bombs and the rockets as well, which is really, really good. And yeah, it's decently maneuverable. You can outturn a lot of enemies, but not at low speed, and not if the enemy knows exactly what they're doing. So that can be a little difficult there. But overall, I think it's really good. It's a vehicle that I think is definitely worth going for right now. It's still available in the Battle Pass, and it's for what it is, a Tier 3 premium. That's going to be great for progressing through the tree. So yeah, I describe it as very good. Definitely worth going for if you have the opportunity. Should I buy the XM1? Only if you have the lineup for it, I would say. This goes into sort of more of a hypothetical answer to the question, in that as a vehicle, it's really, really good. But if you don't have the lineup and you're not quite used to top tier, it's not going to be the best thing to play. The danger becomes, well, the danger, I guess, when you start at top tier from the offset, it becomes tricky because the enemies that you're fighting are mostly going to be playing at that BR for a fair while. They know they have the reaction times to snap. If you're new to the game, you're not quite going to be able to adjust to that. It's not like an FPS where you have infinite strafe or whatever. You are limited by the vehicles themselves, so that is something definitely to consider, which is difficult, especially. So I think you should only buy it if you are confident with the maps, confident with the game, and have the reaction times to play around stabilizers. But I don't think it's something you should buy if you're very, very new. It's always best to go through the start of the tree, learn the game, learn the maps, and the lower tiers, I think, are just, at least for me, that's where the most fun is. I think I love the variance in gameplay, how different all the vehicles are, and I would only really do it if you're super confident with your ability and you have a lineup waiting for it. That's what I go for. Why Sherman can destroy Tiger? Don't know if that's a meme. Maybe it is. Because I can be really obnoxious here, just because it can. That's a thing that can happen. I don't know what else to say there in such a vague question. It can definitely occur. Let's see what else we've got going on. Hello, Napalm. I do enjoy Naval. I think the way I enjoy Naval is not playing around the areas that have a lot of variance in the matchmaker. I like destroyers. The early destroyers I think are really fun. I can play that all day and enjoy myself. I love the early destroyers. It's a really nice gameplay loop. But yeah, higher tier, I think we just need more stuff to come, and then maybe it can be spread out. I don't know. I'm not the guy in charge there, I'm afraid. JU87 or IL2? I guess they're both. Again, it's a black and white question, and I think that has a grey answer. The IL2 is actually deceptively good as a fighter. Well, not really as a fighter, but it can adapt to threats way better than the Stuka. Stuka bleeds a lot of speed, and the IL2 can do way more in terms of air defense, or defense from air, rather. They mean different things. And the benefit of the IL2 as well is that the guns that it can get, the 23s, at least on the late IL2s, excuse me, can knock out medium tanks and pillboxes in air RB, and can disable a lot of enemies in tank RB as well. The Stukas are, more fun, I guess. They're more loved as a type of vehicle, but I would say overall the IL2s have more potential against tanks and air, whereas the Stukas are a bit more forgiving to use in terms of the bomb load, so maybe you'll get more out of them in that regard. But overall, in terms of like their ceiling, the IL2s have it, I'd say. I would say. What else do we got? More Japanese tanks in the future. I would like to see more. Obviously, it's a very difficult type of vehicle to add. They're not the most abundant. And I mean, maybe in the future there'll be more. I obviously can't say right now. I'd like to see some, especially as their vehicles are really, really interesting. They were designed in such a way that, other vehicles weren't, because they were limited by where they were on their, on the country itself. And there's so much that goes involved into how they were developed. And yeah, I would love to see more, but I don't really know right now. It's on the cards. Do you like the Soma? Soma? I can't remember how to pronounce that. Somwa? Not sure. Yes, I do. I think it's a great vehicle. Decently forgiving for what it is, but quite easy to misplay because of the weak side armor and the poor reverse gear. I think it's easy to get it into a situation where there's not a lot it can do to get out of the situation. But if you can kind of funnel the enemies just being in front of you with good positioning, it can be a super scary vehicle. I really like that. Yeah, it's a great tank. Absolutely. What do you think about the American 7.0 lineup with premiums? Very, very strong. Very strong. Um, yeah, I mean it's got the T29, incredible vehicle, and the AD2 as well, A2D, excuse me. Again, really really good. They both work really well in their respective areas. T29 may be one of the best heavy tanks relative to its BR. Maybe not quite as good as it was back in the day, but it's still hugely effective. Great vehicle. Um, but of course, I mean you have the tech tree pattern as well. The M46 that works. It's identical, so I don't think the premium has its a lot of use there. I think 7.0 and 6.7 can be interchanged with the tech tree as well. But it's certainly a really strong lineup. If you have the ability to get those premiums on discount, 7.0 is really good for speeding up the progression. Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, Thoughts on the Swedish tech tree? I like it. I really like it. A lot of their vehicles are quite similar, I think, by design. But they're great. I love the gun depression. What I really like about the gun depression actually is that it lets you play in different ways that other vehicles can't. Like the standard for those tanks is like 15 to 20 degrees of gun depression, which is kind of mental. And that means you can use ridge lines in the ways that other vehicles can't. And that also works because if you're fighting people that play the game a lot and kind of know where to look and where to they know that enemies are going to be coming from and directions, you can put yourself in areas that people aren't going to expect, and that's really good for those vehicles. And because pretty much all of them can do it, it's a really good way to play, and it's really fun. I like them a lot. I think the tree's great. Maybe we can see more down the line, like more new vehicles be added. But I think right now it's decently strong. They don't have a huge amount of lineups, but the vehicles themselves are pretty interesting, and they let you approach the game in a different way, which is pretty nice. Pretty nice. J87 or IL2 in ground RB and air RB. I did just answer that. You can rewind, I guess, and listen to it. Anything about the French fleet? I can't say anything upcoming, I'm afraid. I'm not sure. I would like to see it, but we will see. Maybe. I want to know how to play the Firefly. Do you mean the tank or the plane? I would assume the plane, but I don't want to go off about the tank if you don't mean that one. I will keep an eye on the chat. Let me know which one. And I will try and help out. Egg tea, very nice. A combination of two incredibly funny words. That's a 10 out of 10 from me. Absolutely. How to play the Panther D? Difficult. I think it's there's so much that goes into that. The Panther D especially is a vehicle that is very, very easy to misplay. Again, just because of the weak side armor and the really slow turret drive. So playing it at long range obviously is the way to go. It's one of those vehicles that doesn't get many advantages at at a close range. Of course, the armor can be used to brawl with, but you don't have the armor to be able to react. At least maybe armor. Well, that still does work. But the reactive mobility and the armor don't really work that well for close range. Long range is great. The gun will still work, and the armor, at least the turret armor, is way more reliable. So I would stick to long range and with that one especially. But the benefit it does have is that it does have the versatility to go into the map if need be, and like later on in the game if you need to cap points. Like it's not an impossibility. It just puts you in a weaker spot. So I would stick to ranged as well. It is a bit of a lineup vehicle. If you have the Tiger, if you have the Panzer 470V, those vehicles are Panzer 470 maybe not quite. Still, it is still quite versatile. I'd say that's still very versatile for a TD especially. So yeah, I would probably make sure you have a lineup to use that one. But if you have just gone for that one, you don't have the Tiger, stick to range at all possible, and that's definitely what I would do. Absolutely. How to play German M47 at 7.0? Well, it's a very, very versatile tank. It's one that is, again, like I said with the Shermans earlier, a tank. You can do a lot with it. There's not a lot it can't do. Mobility is good, armor's good, firepower is good. Not really the best in top tier. Well, when it's up tiered, I guess, to 8.0 against stabilizers and darts and that kind of thing. But it's a vehicle that is quite difficult to really explain how to play it in absolutes because it is just really versatile. There's not a lot I can really say in terms of what to avoid and what not to avoid because a lot of it is just how you play, how you play tanks on autopilot. The armor will save you sometimes. The gun is good, and the mobility can get you where you need to be. There's not really a huge amount I can add without kind of going into being kind of patronizing with a kind of common sense, I guess. But it's a really great vehicle. Stock, it's a bit of a struggle. You will need to play a bit more passively, maybe at range, go for the assists. A good way to get assists early on is to spray tracks with machine guns. That will get you assists. And go for crippling blows with the APCR. And then when you get the APHE and the heat, I would switch between them. Whenever I play a tank like that, I switch between the APHE and the heat, just in whatever situation you're in. APHE is obviously way better for one-shots, and the heat is good for sort of pointing and clicking effectively. You'll confirm less kills in one shot with the heat, but it is safer. With the heat, you can pretty much look, aim, and fire, and you'll disable what you're shooting at. But the APHE, there are things you will struggle against. So I think they both have application. It just depends on what you're more confident with. I think probably maining the heat is safer, but having some APHE in reserve to one shot is still pretty good. Still pretty good. Tome noticed me. I have. Hello. I hope you're doing well. BT42 when? I hope soon. I have no idea. That would be very cool to have. Maybe one day. Hesh or heat? Heat, if it's available. It's way more versatile. Way more versatile. Hesh still does have its own application, but it's still fairly limited. What it does do, it does really well, but that's still within its own niche. So I think heat is definitely the best one to go for. Absolutely. More water, because my throat is screaming at me right now. Very cool. Firefly tank. Yes, well, the Firefly is a very unstable platform. The gun, being what it is very, very bouncy. You are not going to want to meet enemies on the move. And it is a vehicle that doesn't really have many close-range advantages. It's a very long-range suited tank. And the benefit of playing at long range is that the turret traverse is very, very quick. So you can react to enemies from different angles and different areas very, very quickly and very easily. So it does work quite well in that regard, although you can play it at close range if you need to. But it's not really suited for the close ranges. The gun is really unstable on the move. Pretty much every other cannon is going to stabilize before the Firefly's cannon. So I would avoid playing at close range if it's all possible. Go for the Shot Mark 8 when you can. Really, really good. Great spalling. And yeah, stick out of the fight as much as possible. You can use the armor a little bit if you have to, if you angle and keep on the move, but it's not really the best. It's a heavy tank. Well, it's not a heavy tank, but it's a heavy tank, and it's slower than the other Shermans as well, since it uses a weaker engine. So it's kind of difficult to play aggressively. It doesn't have many aggressive attributes, very, very few, in my opinion. So sticking at the longer ranges is what I would go for personally, if it's all possible. There's not really a lot I can say very, very quickly. I need more brain power. I need more tea and coffee and fluid. Why did I say fluid? Fluid's too vague. That allows for particular doors to be opened. Water from the nice machine that we have. Have you ever grown a beard? No, I can't. It doesn't work. Just not there. It just sort of is this most of the time. Yep. Will there be discounts next month? I can't say anything really before any official news has been posted. I think it's more than likely to have something for Victory Day, but what the particulars of that are and if it will happen, it's not my place to say. I hope you can understand. The stream is lagging. Yeah, there should be a couple of people right now having meetings using the internet, so it will be a little stuttery on Twitch. On YouTube sometimes. So apologies for that. Can't be helped right now. Important business. Very important business is occurring. Yeah. Another stream. Hi, Oxy. Hello. I hope you're doing well. Yes, another stream. These will be every Monday now, hopefully. All things going well. Will Tome grow a moustache? If it was possible, I could try. It just doesn't work. That would be quite funny, though. I don't think I would suit that. Or I could maybe get a stick, one that said the one to, well, stick on, I guess. You said tank? I know. I described the tank. I didn't describe the plane. Sorry. Go back if you missed it. I did talk about the tank. Hello, Tome. Hello, Axolotl Combat. I hope you're doing well today. And every other day as well. Not just today. That would be sad. Uh, can't you just get Mr. UW, the German, to help you? No, I think he's using the internet as well, but not in a rigorous way, sensible way. He's in the other room right now, doing very important business. Will there be a Macabre 4? Not sure. Maybe. I can't really speak to that, but it will hopefully come at one point because it's a very cool tank, although I can't exactly speak for its application in the future. That's not really what I can do. Will the mouse ever be able to be bought again? Probably. It's what it looks like it's going to happen is that it will come back every year at least. Don't take that as gospel though. I don't know. It just seems to be the trend that's happening right now, and I'd say from a player to a player, I guess it would probably be best to expect it in, I don't know when the last event was. Once a year is when I would sort of guess, but I don't know. Hello, I would like to ask if we will see more Swedish vehicles, heli planes. Yes, is my answer. Do you think Leo is worse than Maus? In some ways, again, kind of a black and white question with a grey answer. You probably hear that from me a lot. I like saying that. Yeah, I mean, they both have pros and cons. Maus, obviously great for brawling in the right situation and the right BR. Leo, way more versatile and has much better map control. They're not really vehicles that I think can be compared in a useful way, I think. Did Oxy eat Mike? No. I'm not going to say the V word. Let's not go there right now. That's not for me. No, please. I don't even know what that is. Opinions on cows? I don't know. I've never really thought about it. I don't really like sheep. I had a recurring dream about sheep as a child that traumatized me. That sounds weird now that that's so vague. Cows, fine. They're around, I guess. They always look at you weird, like they just don't care, and I can respect that. I used to have this dream when I was younger. This is really pointless, so apologies. This might annoy you if you're just here for War Thunder, so make it brief. But I used to have this dream that I was like sitting on a fence looking into a field of sheep. And there was this farmer that went into the field, and he was surrounded by sheep, and I was watching him just sort of go about his business. And all at once, the sheep stood up on their back legs and ran over to him and beat him to death with their front legs. Just like smacking him and beat him to death. And that was a dream I had when I was like 7 or 8, and it traumatized me. I've never forgot that, and ever since then I'm a bit weird about sheep. I don't trust them. To me, in my mind, they're like a hive mind, and just like an invasive alien species, and it really bothers me. So yeah, I'm not a fan of sheep. Cows, fine, no problem with that. They're just a bit, don't know. Cows always look bored, and I mean I can respect that, absolutely. What do I think about the F4F early? I haven't really played it very much, haven't had the time. I think it's a vehicle that will struggle a lot. But excuse me. It's, again, if that's your first top tier vehicle at 10.7, not going to be the best to use. It's very, very difficult to make that thing work effectively if you're not used to the environment. I think if you did get it, what I'd probably do is just leave it for now, put it to one side, and then eventually play it when you're more confident. It's a very bad introduction to top tier if you haven't played any other top tiers yet. So I think before deciding, kind of going into how it should really best be played, it's better to learn the overall flow of top tier before really going into that, I'd say. That's what I would go for. MiG-21 PFM any good? Yeah, in some ways it works. It's not really super powerful in up tiers, but it's versatile. The main gun is very difficult to aim. I struggle to aim that thing a lot. The missile's not great, but I mean, 9.7, you have the AGMs beam riding for tank matches, which is pretty good. And yeah, it's not immensely powerful, of course, but I mean, it's a vehicle that works. It's probably not worth spending a lot of money on the market because it's not a premium. You're not going to get a unique experience or product benefit out of it. So it's good if you have it, but I probably wouldn't spend lots of money on unlocking it if you don't have it already. Favorite MF Doom album? I really like Food. I think he just had lots of fun with it, and I love that. Doomsday as well, great, but I really like Food. I love. I mean, I used to watch a lot of him on Adult Swim when he had his little segments. He's just a guy that had a lot of fun with what he did, and that album is like the antithesis of that. And I love it. I love it. I really like that album. Um, Servers question mark? I yes, very vague. Oh, I like that. Lots of vagueness there. I think my only answer can be yes. Um, why is Tiger 2 6'7"? I don't know if that's an accusatory thing or a positive thing. I'm not sure how to answer that question. Um, can I get reward, please? What kind of reward do you want? I shouldn't. Yeah, okay, let's hope that's not weird. Hi, are there some Spanish camouflages? Yes, there's a BT5 camo on the market, very cheap, 10 cents, I think, to get that one. And the SB2Ms have Spanish camo. And I think some German stuff has Spanish Civil War camouflage, but it's not actually Spanish, of course. One of the SB2Ms has a Spanish camo. I can't remember which one it is, but one definitely does have it. Oxy, what playstyle would you recommend for the 4-7 Japanese tanks, since they have no armor, bad reload, and mech mobility? I think their armor can be deceptively good. Not reliable at all, but they can definitely catch shots. They are vehicles that really struggle to work in absolutes. What I mean by that is that there's not a way you can play it that will constantly work, because, like you said, they're really good in some aspects, but nothing is completely reliable. In the same way that, say, the KV-1 is really reliable in terms of armor, the Hellcat's really reliable in terms of mobility, and well, the Japanese, believe it or not, is very reliable in terms of its firepower. That thing, the Type 5 cannon, I want to say, hugely powerful, great penetration, great damage. So you need to make, to kind of prefix that statement, it's difficult to make a tank that relies solely on firepower to work all the time, because mobility, not amazing, armor, not amazing, firepower, very nice. So it really comes down to map knowledge and positioning in that respect. If you can't rely on the armor and you can't rely on the mobility, you need to find a spot where the gun can point and click. And that's the main thing I would say. Again, don't play on autopilot. Don't drive into the map until you see an enemy and then engage. You need to aim to go to a position in the map and then engage from that position. Don't just drive directly at the enemy. If you do that, you're going to be relying on your mobility and armor when you don't have to. You want to rely just on your gun. So finding a position at range that lets you cover a wide sight line is obviously the best way to go. So I would look around the maps and find a position like that works. That's a very, very vague answer. I can't really go into huge amounts of detail with that. But the main thing really for any vehicle that can solely rely on firepower and nothing else is map positioning. That's the main focus, I'd say, for that kind of thing. And that's what I go for. Find a spot that works at range, and you can really make the gun work. That's my brief answer there. Look how pale my arm is. That's terrible. Jesus. Bloody hell. Chuffin Nora. Will tanks like the Panther 2 and Tiger 105 ever come back? I'd say it's unlikely, but not impossible. I can't really give a straight no or straight yes answer to that. That's better for questions to the developers in the Q&A. They'll probably be better suited to answer such questions. Not quite for me. Oh, voice went again. Lovely. How would you play the T-34, the American Tech Tree? It's a very good heavy tank in that it has everything going for it. Armor, of course, can't be 100% reliable, but it can brawl. It can definitely brawl. The only thing that holds down that playstyle, well, lets down that playstyle rather, is the reload. I think it's 16.4 seconds stock, 16.1. So it is a long reload for a tank like that. Maybe it's longer, actually. I can't remember. Yeah, so I always like playing it quite aggressively. It's one of those vehicles that if you don't give the enemy much time to aim at you, it's going to be very difficult for them to get an accurate shot. Even like things like the 88, the Russian 122s, do struggle to get through that thing if they're rushed into a shot. The benefit then is using that mobility, or not really mobility, but it does have good mobility, for a heavy tank at least, and using the armor to push enemies quite aggressively, because then that will rush them into a shot. And most of the time, you don't need to aim very much, because that gun, the 120, is hugely powerful. You can plant through basically anything with that. The benefit, well, the detriment rather of working at long range, the sort of pros and cons, benefits and advantages, benefits and disadvantages, cannot even speak, is that at long range, your armor, of course, is going to be more effective. It's harder to hit the weak spots, but aiming the gun is more difficult. It's not the easiest to aim, and if you miss, you do have a comparatively hefty reload. So it's a little bit difficult in that respect. I think you won't survive the longest, but you'll probably have the better experience playing it aggressively at close range. But that really does tie into map knowledge. You need to know what you're doing, where you're playing. You can't really just drive in aimlessly and not really know where enemies are going to be coming from. You need to have that base level of map knowledge on what you're playing. General advice for that is to try and play around an area that has at least some areas locked off passively by your team. So if you're looking at where the enemies are, you know that enemies aren't going to come from your side because the enemy are there, etc. And another benefit, I guess, to that, what was I going to say? I was thinking of something and my brain went, is to, Christ, that was the first time I've lost my train of thought for a while. That rarely happens to me. But yeah, a good indicator of that kind of thing is using your team as a buffer. And that's what I was going to say. Because the reload is long, if you stick around a teammate, they can sort of stop an enemy's advance to you. In that if you fire and you miss or anything like that, you shoot an enemy, you hit them, but you don't knock them out, then they might have time to rush you if you're on reload because they know the reload of that gun is very, very long. And so what I would probably aim for there is to play around a teammate because they can sort of lock an enemy's advance to you. They need to obviously be dealt with before the enemy gets to you. So try and stick around teammates in that regard as well. That was always really, really helpful for a vehicle with a long reload. What else do we have? Invalid Hunter, I did answer that question quite recently, maybe a few minutes ago, unless that's an old thing that's been repeated because the internet's not very good. I did answer that. Let's see. A little bit off topic, but would you prefer tonic and gin or a screwdriver? If that's a type of beverage I'm unsure of, I don't know. I usually just have gin because it's quite easy to drink, and you sort of like, schlep that down. Yep, that was this thing I just said. Very nice. I quite like gin. I've got some at home, but I don't have any tonic, which is a shame. I'm going to pour more tea, for I have some left, which is always very nice. Hopefully it's still warm. I left the top off, which is probably not a good thing. Lovely. Jubbly. You guys going to add more Swedish vehicles? Thank you for yelling. Yes, there'll be more Swedish vehicles eventually at some point. I don't know when or what, but yes. Absolutely. How's your mam doing? She got 2 kittens recently, 2 little two brothers. 2 of them. 2 of them, and they're very sweet. So I think she's probably quite fine. Swedish Sherman, maybe. I don't know. I mean, the Swedish could have 3 Shermans, I think. Or at least 2. They had the 105 and the Firefly for testing, I think. Maybe they'll come eventually. Can't really speak to the specifics, but I don't think it's unlikely. Will the Panther 2 and King Tiger 105 return to the research tree? I don't think they ever will return to the research tree. Maybe they'll be available in the future, but I can't really say absolutely. What is your is quite flat, so you can literally go to anyone with doing any job and sort of, you are effectively equals, which is very nice. And, you can have a chat about work, help each other out. It's really, really nice. We get stuff done in really good synergy like that. And I like that it's like that in the office here. And I think mostly it's the people that I work with. I mean, it's not like if I said the word, imagine an office in your head and, you go to, white collars, partitions, that kind of thing. It's not like that. Everyone here is pretty cool. And, we all get on and we're just like friends and enjoy working together. And I really like that. I really like the people here. And, yeah, that's probably my favorite part of working here so far. It's working with like-minded people towards like a common goal, I guess. That's really nice. I like that. Do you think the M60s are worth it? I think the M60s they're pretty much a jack of all trades, master of none kind of thing. armor works, mobility works, firepower works, but not to the degree where you can rely on any of them. You know, it starts in heat, dark territory, so you have to sort of go into, I think. Tips on flying the F-86A stock at its current BR. You need to play a bit more like a vulture. That thing doesn't have much initiative to engage a lot of vehicles, especially in up tiers, but it is able to retain enough maneuverability and energy to kind of pounce on enemies already in fights. Playing stock jets like that around that BR is really good to sort of treat them like vultures, I guess, like interjecting on other fights and catching enemies on low energy. You can't really be the one to initiate one-on-ones, especially if you're stock, and especially against more powerful planes. That's absolutely what I would do. Play a bit more passively, but not passively to the point where, you know, like side climb and engage on most of your team's dead. Just sort of stick around in proxy with your team and just try and help them out like that. You know, go for assists, that kind of thing, and just get your flight performance up a little bit. Aaron, I can't answer anything in terms of upcoming content. There's nothing I can say there. I would like to see heavy bombers come to America. It's yellow, you can sort of see. It's not actually green, and so I don't know why that's happening. Very annoying, but you know, what can we do? What can we do? Tome is so knowledge. I maybe a bit, not absolutely. I still have areas where I need to sort of learn some more stuff. Do me a learn, but yeah, thank you. I'm glad you think so. That's quite sweet. Oh, Yanni, hello. I'm glad you're here. It's nice to see you. How are you doing this Monday? I will get back to work soon, I promise. I will have more to do. What was that German bomber again? The Ju-390. It's a sort of six-engine, huge bomber. I don't believe it was the America bomber, but it was this huge bomber that they were developing near the end of the war. The V3 or V4, I think, was the one that was going to be used for actual bombing missions. I believe they made some which were transport planes. Either that or the Ju-290. The 290 was definitely a transport plane. But I think the 390 was constructed the V1 or V2. They had defensive guns, but no bomb load from what I can remember. And they were just used as massive transports. Really pretty plane, if you look that up. Yes, indeed. Heart. 2 hearts, my favorite. That's my motorcycle impression. You mean the 90C? Depends on the designation. Some use V for the version, and some use A, B, C, D, and then the number designation afterwards. I have a couple of manuals of the early planes, like recognition manuals. They've always used V for the version, and I usually go with that one myself. But yeah, I think the C is the analog to the 3, so they both sort of work. Yeah. ME262 special for shooting range 262. I really hope so. If the team don't do that, they are missing a trick. I very much hope that's the case. We have 262s are beautiful planes. I've always loved those. They're just, I don't know what it is about the 262. It just, it works. You know, if you think about the 262 in your head, like what it was and what it did and what it just is, it's perfect. It's the perfect aircraft for what it is. It's like it's aggressive. It's big. It's perfect. I love it. It's such a gorgeous plane. Really, really pretty. ME323, yes, the giant. Probably not it doesn't have much application in game, but it will be very cool, very pretty as well. But I don't know if we can really have that. Where are the cat ears? Thankfully not here. Please don't. Someone tried photoshopping that and I had a heart attack. Please don't do that. That'd be the worst timeline. I keep getting ignored. Well, I'm sorry. Send your message. I will keep an eye out. Kill Code Monster 03. I will keep an eye out for you. Don't worry. You are noticed. Give me the business. Ian, the shop will hopefully be back up when I'm able to order my stock frames from the company in the UK that I get them from. Because of Brexit, the trade they have can't really operate right now, so I'm unable to really do much easily. So when that's kind of sorted and they have an ability to ship over here again, I will absolutely get back on it because I really miss doing it. They were really fun. And hopefully it's not gone forever. Never is going to be gone forever. Even if it's a long way off in the future, there will be more on there. Absolutely. Absolutely, some may say. I can only rephrase my question so many times. Well, one more rephrase is all that it takes, and I will do my best. Can you suggest the best top tier tank premium for minor nations? I don't really know. There's usually only one of them for the minor nations. And as well, I never think it's the best way to approach the game by buying into the top tier straight away. They are objectively the best products functionally in that respect, but they're not going to give you the best gameplay experience if you're not used to how top tier works. Stabilizers, thermals, the mobility meta and the sort of technology meta, I guess, is a lazy but simple way of putting it. Yeah, it's difficult. I wouldn't go right into that straight away if I was you. I would get something more intermediary and learn the maps, how the game works and how the game feels, and then go up. I wouldn't go straight ahead like that. When add the tonk? A very vague question, and I'll give a very vague answer. Maybe. Favorite minor nation? Better be Italy. I'm not sure. I might say Italy because Italy, I don't know, I love their camouflages. I'm a very simple human. I don't know why I said human like I was trying to defend not being one. But yeah, I like their camouflages and they're very pretty. And there's lots of nice play styles too. They've got some very cool tanks. I really do like Italy, actually. It's a shame we don't have anything to sort of plug the gap from the end of the war to post-war. Obviously, that makes a lot of sense why that's the case. Excuse me. But yeah, Italy's very, very nice. Very nice. Okay. Are the test drive giveaway vehicles going to become permanent additions to the accounts of those that received them from the Future Technology Vehicle Showcase giveaway stream? If you're not a content creator, they are only temporary rentals. That's sort of their overall vibe. They're just sort of a temporary way for you to play the vehicle. They're mainly introduced for content creators. So we can sort of lease out a vehicle if someone wants to make a video on it, and they have it for a while, and then it will disappear again. There's no real way for regular players to get those apart from when we sort of rarely give them away on the stream. Tom is a lizard person confirmed? Maybe. I could sort of take my skin off, but it wouldn't be very nice to see or feel for me. Very painful, I would imagine. Is this like a new daily stream? Only Mondays. This is just a solo Monday thing. We're trying to get Mike to do his own solo one in the week. Maybe he'll do that at some point when we can sort of think of an idea. So hopefully we'll have our own solo ones, and then we'll have the 2 duo streams on Thursday and Friday for Enlisted and War Thunder. For cinematic videos, is there any way to turn off MG's visibility? I don't think so, no. Maybe we can see more replay features added in the future. That would be cool. But I don't think that's a particular that's available right now, I'm afraid. Henlo Oxy, is water overrated? I mean, maybe. It's good for you in that it sort of makes you not dry, which is quite good. Although I'm not going to finish that sentence in the other way I could have said it. It can be nice. I have some right here. It's not very interesting to drink, but it is sort of good for keeping you hydrated. So, very cool. Abigail, tips to play the PTL02, considering it's an underpowered engine. I haven't really had the time to play it, so I couldn't give you a great opinion on that. But as you are right, it's a vehicle that doesn't exactly work incredibly well aggressively off-road. You do have very good thermals, but you do have a very sort of comparatively weak gun. That has pretty much one of the weakest dart shells in the game for a high caliber gun, the 100mm. So it's knowing when to switch between the heat and the dart itself. That's very important. And as well with the lineup, it's a very lineup dependent vehicle because there's some maps where as well it doesn't really work. But something like that, it's a difficult vehicle to play. It has quite a long reload at, I think, 9.1 on an expert crew, 11.1 stock. So you can't really flank too reliably in that regard because, you know, if you're spotted, it's a while before you can fire again, like 9-10 seconds if you have it on a good crew, which isn't really that great. So it's a hard vehicle to play, especially because it has disadvantages at every turn. There's, if you snipe, your gun's quite weak. You don't have much armor, so if you're exposed, you can't really dodge that well. And at close range, the reload does hold you back. So it's a very tricky vehicle to play. It's more of a support light vehicle rather than an aggressive light vehicle. So I would try and stick with your team, really. Help them out. Use the interchange with the APF SDS and the heat and go from there. But as a vehicle, it has very little to consistently rely on. If you can get it into a situation on the flank where it can work, that's obviously great, but it is quite large as a vehicle. So yeah, you see what I mean? Look, at every turn with that tank, it has its drawbacks. So playing it a bit more kind of more like a vulture vehicle with your team, that's probably the way I would go as an absolute, I would say. Are there any plans to include simulator mode in the battle pass? Not sure. That's one to suggest on the forum. I can't really have much of a comment on that, I am afraid. You're welcome, Abigail. Thanks. Oxy, what is the next nation you'll be covering? America. After that, I'm not sure. No idea. We'll maybe do another poll when it poll. Can't say that without sounding stupid. Close to the time. Why are HE rounds so good now? Because of overpressure. It's the new mechanic. It makes them work way more effectively. And the sort of shockwave effect is simulated when they penetrate armor, which, knocks out crew very reliably, which is pretty cool. Very cool. Can you say senpai? Yes, there you go. I have said it. For better or for worse. Yep. The stream is the best. Love me some Oxy. Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm really not that good at being that sort of a person, though. I'm sort of, I think, I'm someone that doesn't really like attention very much, so this is obviously quite, I wouldn't say traumatic, but it's not really my element. I don't really, like, that's why I always hated birthdays. I haven't had a birthday party since I was about 8, because I was just like, I think I went bowling when I was 8 and I lost, and I was like, well, now I'm just sad and people are looking at me and I don't like that. So I'm not really someone that sort of thrives in this sort of environment, but hopefully I'm doing a decent enough job a little bit. So yeah, hopefully that's okay. But I'm not really the most sort of showman-shippy person. I don't like being loud and, over the top. I like being quite quiet. So hopefully I can inject my own nervous energy to this sort of thing in the future. So yeah, hopefully it's not too bad. So the future technology giveaway vehicles can't become permanent. Oh, I see. Yeah, if what you mean is that after the rental ends, if the vehicle stays on your account, it doesn't. It disappears, I'm afraid. The rentals will just stop, and you'll get a pop-up saying the rental has expired, and that's the end, I'm afraid. Cake or pie? I've never had a pie. I've pretty much just had cake in the past. I'm not really a pie kind of person. I don't think. I've just never had one. Maybe in the future. I will drink again because my throat is dying. Why is my forearm so pale? That should not be possible. Unbelievable. Cake is superior. Yes, I agree. Well, I mean, I don't know. Maybe pie is quite good. I'm not sure. We'll see. I'll experiment one day. Will we ever see a speed run to 100%? Maybe. I thought about doing a speed run of getting every vehicle in the tree, but it would take a long time, and I don't know if I'd have the time commitment to that. Can you say UWU? No. Maybe. The only way you can get me to say that is if you catch me out. You got to make me say it quickly, otherwise my brain will interject and yell at me in my head. Do you think the B-52 and Tu-95 would work in the game? Probably not right now. I don't know if they could be put into a place where they would be able to work fairly. I think it's it's a bit more of like a Mao's situation where it's not, it's not impossible to have them in the game, but it's very, very difficult to put them in an area where they simultaneously they have the ability to work and they're not, like food for everything else, basically. I think maybe not right now, maybe in the future when the game's in a different state, they could be applicable, but I don't think it's something you can expect in the immediate future. But I don't know, ultimately. I really don't know. That's just my opinion on it. M4, T-34, or Panzer IV. I'd probably go M4. The Sherman is probably my favorite vehicle in the game as a sort of species of tank. Not a species, but you know what I mean. Very versatile, decent mobility, decent gun, decent armor. It can do everything to some extent if you know how to make each aspect work. Whereas the others have their limitations. T-34s have the low gun depressions. There's parts of the map they don't work on. Panzer IVs have very unreliable armor and not the best mobility. The Sherman is sort of the best of all of those, I think, in my opinion. I will answer a few more, and then I will have to go and get on with some other stuff. They have a bit more to do today, so I will have we'll go until past, so 6 more minutes, and then I will have to say goodbye for today. Let's have a look. Were you the quiet kid at school? I wasn't actually. I wasn't really the opposite, but I was actually quite popular until about year 9, and it sort of went a bit downhill for me. But yeah, I was quite, I don't know, I was sort of quite happy to go about, be sort of a bit louder, be quite funny. Well, I was, trying to be funny, probably wasn't. Yeah, I'm quite different to how I was in many ways, I guess. I'm not quite the same a long time ago. So yeah, I wasn't really that quiet. Probably towards the end of school I was, but not really at the start. Um, why do people act like animals in this chat? I mean, we have a lot of that's not nice to people. We do have a lot of furries in this community though, so maybe that's what you meant. I'm not sure. Maybe. Best USA plane relative to the BR, I'm not really sure how to answer that. They all do different things very, very well, and in other instances, not quite as well. So, yeah, I'm not sure. The F4U4B, very, very good, though. That's a hugely powerful plane. That's one of my favorites. I'm not sure what exactly, how exactly to go from that. I probably need to think about that a lot more. But that's a very, very nice plane anyway. Australian tech tree, maybe? Don't know. I'm not really too familiar on their sort of armor timeline and air timeline. I mean, they have a lot of vehicles, or aircraft they can use, I guess. But I don't know if it's enough to make a tree. Maybe we'll see it in such a way whereas they will come as a line in the British tree. I have no idea. Absolutely no clue what they would do for that. Not sure. Okay. I'll do one more question, and then I've got to go. I'm afraid. But thank you all for being here. It's very, very nice. I enjoy this. Uh, I really enjoy the other official streams too, but I think this sort of suits me better, being a bit sort of more quiet and talking. That's sort of more me, I guess. Maybe I'll get better at doing the other stuff. I'm certainly always up for improving in certain ways. But I'm glad that the majority of you seem to like this. I'm glad there's not huge amounts of people here. Otherwise, it would be a bit difficult to sort of read through everything. But I think this is nice. There's a decent sort of synergy. So yeah, thank you for all for being here. Anyway, I really appreciate it. Let's see, one more. I'm tapping my fingers on the table and it's making me vibrate. We have a very unstable table, by the way. Negative noise. Thank you. I really appreciate it. I will do more, hopefully. And yeah, I'm a bit tired today. We had a very long weekend, so I don't think I did as well as I could have done. But hopefully next time I'll be a little bit better. And when I get more comfortable with these, I'll probably be able to answer questions a bit better too. So hopefully I can improve a bit there. But I'm glad you're liking it for the time being. Really, really do appreciate it. Come on, give me one more question. One more question about the game. I'm trying to find one. Is there going to be a major update for China? I don't know. No idea. But I think there are certain vehicles that China could have that would be really, really great. Obviously, SPA for the lower tiers and higher tiers, that would be great. I would personally love to see that. And yeah, I don't know apart from that, I'm afraid. I would like to see more Chinese stuff. Their late development was really, really cool, like their later vehicles. I'd love to see more of those. So hopefully down the line, we will have some more stuff to see. Den Chief, yes, I am Oxy on YouTube, OXY. I make very long videos on tank tech trees. They're usually between like an hour and 2 hours long. It's usually going through how to make a vehicle work, like strengths and weaknesses, and coupling both of those to find a way to make the vehicle applicable and workable. So yeah, if you like that kind of thing, they're also apparently quite good to listen to while you go to sleep. So yeah, check it out if you like, although you don't have to. Okay, it is 1:30 now, just about, so I will have to disappear and get on with some other stuff. Thank you very much for being here. I really appreciate it. It's really nice to have these little chats. I am a big fan. Yeah, if you have any feedback on how I can make these better at all, on the social media post for this, maybe go there and leave some suggestions, or somewhere else. I don't know. I can't really read the forum. Maybe on, and I can't make it on the Reddit. I don't know. So try and go to the social media post if you want to have some feedback. So I want to make these the best they can be, really. So, and that's the best place to gather some feedback. So I'd really appreciate that. Great. Thank you all for being here. Hopefully hopefully these are only going to get better and better. And yeah, really appreciate all being here. And I will see you in the future. Thank you very much. Bye. I need to work out which one of these I need to press. I think it's this one. Hopefully. Anyway, see you soon. Thank you very much.